It was a bright afternoon in the small town of Greenfield. The streets were busy with people going about their day. Some were walking their dogs, while others strolled along the sidewalk, heading to the local grocery store. Among them was Mr. Charles Baldwin, a black man in his late 60s, walking peacefully with a cane in hand. Dressed in a simple brown coat and a flat cap, he moved slowly but surely. To anyone watching, he was just an ordinary old man minding his business. As he passed by the front of a small diner, a police cruiser pulled up beside him, and a tall, stocky officer stepped out. The officer's name was Ray Jenkins, a white cop with a reputation for being overly aggressive, especially toward people of color. Ray had a stern look on his face as he walked toward Mr. Baldwin. "Hey, old man," Ray barked. "Where do you think you're going?" Mr. Baldwin stopped and turned calmly to face the officer. "I'm just heading to the post office, officer." "Is there a problem?" Ray's eyes narrowed as he looked Mr. Baldwin up and down. "You look like someone who doesn't belong around here. What's in your pockets? Let me see some ID." The request caught the attention of a few passers-by, who began to slow down and watch the interaction. Mr. Baldwin raised his eyebrows slightly but remained composed. "I don't see any reason for this, officer," Mr. Baldwin replied politely. "I'm just an old man trying to run my errands." Ray wasn't having it. He stepped closer, now towering over Mr. Baldwin. "Don't give me any lip. I said show me your ID, or I'll make sure you regret it." At this point, a small crowd had gathered, murmuring among themselves. Mr. Baldwin looked around and saw the growing audience. He reached slowly into his pocket and pulled out his wallet, handing over his driver's license. Ray snatched the ID, barely glancing at it. "You think just because you're old, you can get away with anything, hey?" he sneered. "People like you don't belong in neighborhoods like this." The crowd's whispers grew louder, and some people began pulling out their phones to record the scene. Mr. Baldwin stayed quiet, observing the officer's actions. Ray's anger flared as he noticed the cameras. He grabbed Mr. Baldwin's arm roughly, yanking him forward. "I said, what's in your pockets? Empty them out now." Before Mr. Baldwin could respond, Ray reached for his gun holster. The crowd gasped as the officer pulled out his weapon and aimed it directly at the elderly man's chest. "You're not fooling anyone," Ray shouted. "I bet you've got something dangerous in there." The tension in the air was thick. Everyone held their breath, waiting to see what would happen next. Mr. Baldwin stood still, looking at the officer calmly, not a hint of fear on his face. Ray Jenkins gripped the handle of his gun tightly, his finger hovering over the trigger. The crowd was frozen in shock. Phones were raised, recording every moment, but no one dared to intervene. "I'm giving you one last chance," Ray barked. "Empty your pockets or I swear I'll..." Before he could finish his threat, a loud voice broke through the crowd. "Officer, stop right there." Everyone turned toward the source of the voice. A woman in a navy blue suit and a badge hanging from her neck pushed her way through the crowd. Her name was Detective Susan Bennett, a well-respected figure in the Greenfield Police Department. Ray looked up in surprise, lowering his gun slightly but keeping his grip firm. "What are you doing here, Bennett?" "This is my stop." Susan's sharp eyes glared at Ray, and she pointed toward Mr. Baldwin. "Do you have any idea who you're pointing the gun at?" she asked sternly. Ray scoffed, waving Mr. Baldwin's ID in the air. "Just another troublemaker, that's all." He probably doesn't even live around here." Susan's eyes widened, and she took a step closer to Ray. "That man you're harassing is Senator Charles Baldwin." The crowd erupted in gasps. Phones were raised higher, and people began whispering in shock. Ray's face turned pale as he processed what Susan had just said. "Wait, what?" Ray stammered, looking down at the ID in his hand more carefully this time. Sure enough, the name on the card read Charles Baldwin, the same name that had been making headlines for years. Senator Baldwin was known for his civil rights work, and he was highly respected in the political world. "You've really done it this time, Jenkins," Susan said, crossing her arms. "Senator Baldwin is here on official business, and you've just made a complete fool of yourself." Ray's grip on the gun loosened, and he quickly holstered it, backing away from Mr. Baldwin. I didn't know." The crowd buzzed with disbelief as Ray Jenkins tried to make sense of what he had done. His face was flushed with embarrassment as he stepped back from the senator. Meanwhile, Mr. Baldwin stood tall, his calm demeanor never wavering. Detective Susan Bennett moved in swiftly, taking control of the situation. "Officer Jenkins," she said firmly, "you've crossed the line today. Pointing a gun at an innocent man, and not just any man, a sitting senator. There will be consequences." Ray stammered, "I didn't know. It was a mistake. I swear." But Susan wasn't interested in excuses. She motioned for two officers who had just arrived on the scene. "Escort Officer Jenkins back to the station. He'll be placed on immediate suspension pending investigation." Ray's eyes widened in panic. "What? You can't do that. I was just doing my job." "Your job isn't to terrorize innocent people," Susan snapped. "Especially not someone of Senator Baldwin's stature." As the officers led Ray away, the crowd cheered, some clapping and shouting words of support for Mr. Baldwin. The senator gave a small nod of gratitude to the people around him, but his focus remained on Susan. "I appreciate your timely intervention, Detective," Mr. Baldwin said, his voice calm and dignified. "I've been through many battles in my life, but this one was unexpected." Susan smiled warmly. "It was the least I could do, Senator. You've done so much for our community, and we won't let people like Jenkins bring you down." As Ray was driven away, his career hanging by a thread, the crowd slowly dispersed, still buzzing with excitement over what they had witnessed. Mr. Baldwin, with his cane in hand, continued on his way, his steps unhurried, as if nothing had ever happened. And just like that, justice had been served. Thank you very much for watching till the end of this story. If you enjoyed watching, subscribe to our channel and turn on the notification bell for more thrilling stories. Don't hesitate to also like the video and share it with your loved ones too. Enjoy your day.